Joining me now is political strategist Yaron Finkelstein. He served as advisor to Scott Morrison during his prime ministership. He's in the studio with me, and how fortuitous to have you today, Yaron.
Or not.
Have you been involved in any coups like this?
Well, no. I've been very lucky to be serving at times of great stability. So,
when was that?
Anytime I'm involved, there's always stability.
Okay. Yeah, it seems like the halcyon days a long time ago for the Liberal Party. Look, you can see what's going on. For me, it is so performative and really a bit nauseating, to be honest, treating the public like idiots, treating their own supporters like this by dragging it out. I mean, get it done. But the central point here is, Yaron, what does this change?
So it's probably the best question, because the Messiah wasn't elected when Susan took the role on, and if there's a change in leadership tonight or tomorrow, the party still hasn't elected the Messiah. As far as I know, that role doesn't go through a democratic process. It doesn't change a lot. That's the problem that the party has. The hard work, whoever leads it, has to happen. And there's no sizzle here. There's a lot of sausage making, but very little sizzle. It's not like, and some of us have been around and can remember moments in history where a party sort of gets this sort of gravitas position, a hawk, when the Labor Party switched to him in 1982, 83. I mean, that's how far back you have to go. But that tells you, right, there's movement, momentum. That doesn't happen anymore. These are candidates that just have to do the hard work. Whoever wins
tonight. We have to go back 42 years. I wasn't even born then, by the way.
I had no doubt about that.
Yeah, but I mean, in all honesty, when you look at the crop of the party, the current crop at the moment, and today everyone is watching them. Their supporters, their base is watching them. What is the big rabbit out of the hat, as Jane Hume flagged earlier this week? Is there one?
So at certain points, people are watching, for good or bad. Sometimes you'd rather they weren't watching all this sausage making, but let's say they do. For a day or two, let's say there's a change in leader. They've got to take that opportunity and do something that reminds voters that they're relevant to something in their lives. I haven't heard about policy from the two parties. You know, all that time that the coalition was being restitched together, I heard a lot of very tiny things, staff entitlements and salaries and tiny, selfish, self-interested parts of this. Where's the big picture that Australians might go, well, at least if you're going to have a fight, at least you're doing it on something that's important to me. And that has to change.
For a party that talks so much about merit-based appointments, how many mouths is Angus Taylor going to have to feed for exchange of the getting support for the leader? Well, because the numbers are tight.
They are, but that's on the assumption that he prevails. But either way, not many votes have to change. That's the reality.
Just on that. So do you think it's a safe assumption that he will be leader by tomorrow?
I'm assuming he thinks it is, otherwise he wouldn't go through this.
What happens at times like this? Have you seen up close where, you know, the phone calls are being made at the moment? Does anyone ever call to say, sorry, Susan, I voted for you last time, this time it doesn't happen? Is there any people of good character that actually do that, or they just go into the party room and cast their secret ballot?
The person you can trust most is the one that says, I'm not voting for you.
Yeah.
That's the reality. But it doesn't take many votes. It's essentially, and others have spoken about this, a couple of moderates, as they're called, would be switching their vote. However that happens, maybe they've said, right, I'm going to give you a go, Angus, or he's sweetened the deal. But it doesn't take many. But the other part of this is, there are some who would be saying, why would we change? The transactional costs of change. Are we really going to do better if we change? And that's probably sticking in the minds of a few of the people sticking with Susan.
Factions aside, logistics aside, upper house, lower house aside, you know, states aside, all these things that need to be considered when you're appointing a leadership team and having a deputy, who do you think would be the best deputy for Angus Taylor?
That's a question about optics. If Angus was thinking, how does he get those 2-3 moderates to switch vote, it's probably with a change in optics. Having a moderate as the deputy would be one play. And it doesn't have to be necessarily the best candidate, it just has to be someone that signals to the moderates, you know, I'm accepting of all, and this can be a wonderful kumbaya moment. Whether they buy it or not is another question.
It's existential for the Liberal Party.
It is.
Before this point, it was existential. We see the polling, constant polling. And polling's not an election, but we're going to get this test in South Australia in just a couple of weeks' time. Geez, the Liberals in South Australia would certainly not be thanking their federal colleagues at the moment. I mean, the polling was already diabolical there in SA. This certainly won't help matters.
Well, it was never looking good for them because Malinauskas has delivered a government that feels like they're doing good things, the right things. It's very hard for the opposition to break through that. What they now have is an excuse. I don't think it's a factor in their defeat. I think they have an excuse. That's different.
Well, that's a very fair assumption. But when it comes down to it, how quickly does Angus Taylor and his team need to formulate policy? And is it fair to say they think their base and their supporters just want to see them have a crack? It doesn't need to be perfect, but come up with something. I can't think of, a policy post-election that has captured the imagination of their supporters.
That's right.
They don't take risks. It's nothing, because the art of having a policy and then prosecuting an argument seems to be lost on them.
That's right. If you gathered a dozen Australians tomorrow and put them in a room, sometimes we call that a focus group, and you ask them, so what can you tell me about the coalition or the Liberal Party? And they wouldn't have anything to say except what we've been seeing, and that's the problem. If they're not nominating something interesting that's policy or relevant to their lives, you're not cutting through with anything that's relevant.
It's a gift to them at the moment. What about this CFMEU story out of Victoria? And Tim Wilson's the only one that's been talking about it.
Still plugging along, and it says something about Tim. We've talked about his work ethic, and either way, whatever happens over the next 24 hours, Tim's still one to watch. Either way.
Would he ever, have a crack at the leadership here, or would that just be frowned upon by his colleagues?
We'll see.
He could be the Morrison candidate.
The ones
come up through the middle.
You never know. Let's watch.
Do you think that could be a possibility?
Put a lazy $5 on that.
Okay.
But don't put the house on it.
Okay. Noted. Yaron, thank you. Appreciate your time.